No, you're never going to win against me, dude.
Oh, shut up. I would have won.
Yeah. Though next time we gotta find you more bandages. Because I don't like using my mask as his little guard thing. Anyway, hello, I'm the True White Gamer, giving off my vast knowledge so you may understand games a bit better. Acid. It's a material used to corrosive. It's used to break down materials. Or it's the drug. And in this game case, it's one of those. And it might not be the one you think.
Well, anyway, let's get the basics out of the way. Metal Gear Acid is a spin-off done by Shinta Nojiri, who's actually worked on a lot of the past MGS games, and actually directed Ghost Babel. And I've been told that game's pretty good, though I would wonder about the oddity of making this game a card game. In fact, the name is actually an acronym for the gameplay, being called, and I'm not joking on this, Active Command Intelligence Tool. And yes, that name is stupid. Though I'm more confused on what made them considered a card game, but that hardly ever matters, since ideas are always worth trying. Though it kinda hardly matters, but let's get into that when we're talking about Metal Gear Acid. So the game begins with this.
That just happened. And if you wondering what the hell the context is for that, no, I legit have no idea what the fuck the game's doing at times. So, and I actually did do that for this skit and when I first actually saw that. That's how weird it was.
Cause after that we meet with Toliko and she's okay, let's just talk about the graphics now since I'm gonna bitch about them. The game has two styles. The in-game graphics, and these stylized pictures that the game uses at times. See, I don't particularly care much for the game's in-game graphics of this game, since they look very stilted, like that I legit could not watch much of the cutscenes. It's just boring to stare at them. And there's no voiceovers for these lines either, so it's actively hard for me to watch and read them, since it's like, why is it like that? It's not helped with the character models being very stoic, and when the game wants to focus on them, I'm asking, why are you doing that? They're not doing anything. Also, based on this design, I didn't tell she was a woman, since she doesn't look like one because of the design. How her portrait paints her outfit's a bit different, thus why I was a little confused at first. Though speaking on the portraits, they are beautifully well done. I really want posters of these, and it's kind of sad that the artist now is kind of retired, so. But I only have a few complaints, and it's more or less just the game doing this, not the artist itself. But since there's no voiceover, it's kind of still looking at a portrait for a long time, with also not a lot of them ever being used, except for the character portraits, and that's it. Though then again, I wish they used them more to make scenes look better, like, look at this stupid scene for a moment. Are you really telling me that they cannot see in front of themselves? Really? Soon enough, she's captured by these guys, the Leon unit, led by Leon, and that's all I'm gonna mention about them for a little bit, because I'll get to them in the end. Trust me, it'll be important. We also learned that Solid Snake, well, sort of technically, not entirely sure which Snake, since this one's based on, I'm not entirely sure, since we actually never get an explanation of him much in this game. In fact, I don't even know which version of this Snake are we talking about. It hardly matters, but still. He's being helped by this guy called Roger, who I asked, why him? But that hardly matters, as he did get recommended by Campbell, with the help of a psychic named Alice, who Snake doesn't believe in, which I'm not sure to call bullshit or not, because, again, I don't know what particularly happened before or what type of universe we're in, but I don't know what happened though. But that hardly matters, as he's just an asshole to her for some reason. Never really explained why, though it makes sense later, but no, he doesn't know that. It's just stupid. Anyway, Snake was called in after the slaughter of Taliko's team to get the mech Pythagoras, or at least its data. Why the name? Not sure, since the government of Maloney doesn't want to actually work with them, since they're tied to their benefactor Beagle, who's using this land to make the mech and doesn't want anyone to know. Though strangely enough, just the mech in and of itself is not enough for this plot for some reason, because a plane carrying a senator/president candidate is on a plane that's being taken hostage. Which is only confusing to me because this is not a private one, but just a public one. Which, if I know politicians, they just use private planes for everything, since they're safer. And also, where the hell's Secret Service? They extend their services to president candidates. Because, you don't want a candidate to just die. Just saying. Anyway, the plane is taken over by these two, dolls that want Piper Gores because... I'll get to that. Honestly, these two don't matter at all and don't need to be here. And it's odd the game has to feel like they need to introduce these things since they don't do anything. And it would have been better if they didn't even explain who was taking over the plane, since that would have been far more interesting. Because also, spoiler alert, these two aren't actually doing anything. They're just dolls. And the one who's actually doing it is spoiled because the game's very unsubtle. In fact, I could tell when the game was doing stuff like when Toliko, or this version we actually mean, is actually a criminal known as a Cloud, who's kind of like Decoy Octopus, except better since no one can tell easily who she is. Well, except with her perfume and her calling card, Swallowtail, which is a tip off a mile away since no one uses codenames unless they don't trust them at all. Hell, he just kind of dies, and I just honestly don't care as she doesn't matter at all. In fact, me mentioning that is kind of pointless. Now, this is where I would go about the plot and say it's insane. And I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure if I can, since I'm not entirely sure what the hell went on. And this is the guy who can calmly explain what's going on in MGS4 and not want to strangle someone. So hold your head for a moment, this is going to hurt like a lot. So let's get this basically all out of the way. Basically, Dr. Fleming's here helped make Piper Gore so he could sell it off and get millions, but now that's changed since he really wants to actually get his starter back now since his starter is actually also on the plane. Because that makes sense. And it's Minette because, again, this game is not very subtle. And we also get the bizarre twist that Hans Davis is Solid Snake. Which, no, he's not though. The game plays this up for a long time, making up some bullshit about this is some other aspect of Snake, with Snake being a fake personality to be a role model for the kids, which, how the hell do you guys even know who Snake is? Isn't he Secret Ops and not a mercenary? What's more odd, that Fleming's here was actually playing him in certain scene, which is just confusing to no end. And now you're probably wondering, wait, kids? Yeah, they were working on some experiment with kids around the world, I believe so. The world part I'm not sure, so they could make them into soldiers for war since they also had psychic powers. Though before I need to go to the ending, I need to mention the Leon unit. They're dead now. Yeah, they don't matter that much. Yeah, they tried to do something with Leon, but it's so haphazardly done that by the end I just legit did not care. Though, need to mention that they were betrayed by someone called Number 16, who was mentioned in one of the flashbacks as one of the kids who was used in the ritual. And yes, they do call it a ritual for stupid reasons, due to tying itself to a mythology of putting spirits in a pod, sealing them until there's only one left to use as the familiars, and they were going that route here for some reason, because that makes sense. And it's kind of why the inciting incident, or why 16 is doing all this, because she really wants revenge. So we get to Pythagoras and actually destroy it, and then we get the weird twist. Well, I say twist, I mean Tokyo Twist, because that's the best way I can explain it. So basically, Alice was actually number 16 and 104. How? Well, somehow the mind of 16 got into 104, don't ask psychic power bullshit, and is doing all this because she wants to be an asshole as far as I understood, and also get back at Beagle, who was doing stuff to them, since this is again tied to them. She was also able to use her powers to help produce a drug that will be able to use for mass mind control for some reason, which makes no sense as the game then reveals that the plane hijacking was also just a ploy to get Beagle's attention, which, I'm not entirely sure how the logic worked, which I'll get to in a moment. Anyway, shortly after revealing everything, Alice then kills herself, or maybe this is due to having access to so many minds, which makes her go out of control. There's no confirmation on this. Anyway, Alice actually implanted a memory of her into Snake, and somehow making him believe he was also Hans Davis, which I don't know what the hell that achieves, and I need to mention that because Fleming recognizes him, so did Alice tell him to just go along with the lie that he's Han Davis, or did he really think he was Han Davis and they actually met? But that doesn't work since, you know what, it's all stupid. We also learned that after Alice killed herself, Minette was actually 16, or just took over Minette, I'm not entirely sure, and plans to use their mind control powers now, and that Charles, this guy here, who I've hardly mentioned now because he does not literally do anything, and his reveal is actually that he's Han Davis and wants to use Snake for his own purposes, which, for what? I don't know. The game just kinda ends with nothing achieved and the villains winning, and what's worse, this is never followed up on. The next game has nothing to do with this game at all. Honestly, I could go on, but that's the problem. The game is doing something and it expects me to care when I honestly can and won't, since the story is nonsensical and actually forgets things happening. Remember when Campbell recommended us to this mission? Well, he does sort of tell Charles, but not really actually telling him that he wanted him on this mission. Actually, Alice wanted Snake on this mission, and he doesn't tell Charles that because, I don't know, they never explain why, because they wanted this to be a secret reveal or something? Or the more stupid thing. You see, I also mentioned that the game keeps forgetting and adding new information. Like, for example, Dr. Flemings mentioned that he needs Han's memories back since he needs information to unlock Pythagoras, which he states that he needs to unlock Pythagoras, but later on can just use Pythagoras without the data for some reason. And wait, they never ever got the data of it back, just so you're clear. But it's just that the story is trying to figure out how to connect all these things when it really doesn't, and the game does nothing for a good while. In fact, all the characters feel flat, and that's why I haven't even mentioned anything really. It's just, my god, it's just so annoying and boring that I legit could not care less about anything going on. Now, with all that out of the way, let's talk about the gameplay, since it's at least the most salvageable part of the game, though that really makes me sad when it's not good either. Just bland and boring. As I stated, it is a card game, but it's also a tactical card game as well. So, as expected, everything is based on the cards, and that reminds me of another game. On these cards, there are numbers. These numbers represent how many times before your turn will come up. Basically, the higher quality of the card, the longer you're gonna have to wait until your turn comes along. Though this actually does become an annoying thing when moving, since if you want to move, you'll need to use a card up, and if you actually want to face a direction, well, you better use a card to face that direction too, because that's somehow a thing, and they didn't think this was going to be an issue for some reason. Anyway, most cards are action or weapons cards, so you can, well, as you can guess, attack your foes, even though that kind of goes against the idea of this game being a stealth game. The game really wants you to play this like a stealth game, even though I always go guns a-blazing in this game, because really, it dealt with more of the mechanics than anything else in the game entirely. That and also because the stealth mechanics aren't even that good. It's only line of sight, but not sound-based for some reason, as some of the guns actually have silencers that, from my understanding, have no real purpose other than for its own sake with just another card. And what's worse is that some of these cards you need to just equip before you can actually use them, kinda like loading them for some reason. And are actually particularly weaker than cards that you could just automatically use. Mostly. Honestly, the game doesn't really give me any reason to go non-lethal since there's not a lot of options. In fact, I found that killing everyone or rushing to the end point in a level is just the best since it allows me to get the mission done and allows me to do whatever I need to do without much issue. Sometimes the game wants you to use certain cards to even progress some levels even though there's no need for them, like the card level, which only exists to open some doors and leave some doors unopenable so you can go through the level their way. I don't mind level railroading as long as it makes sense. I mean, there are some cards that are needed that are pretty good, like the Nikita Missile or the PGS-1. That allows you to do things a lot easier. Though more of my problem is that you better hope you get the proper card to begin with so you can actually progress, or else it's just a lot of waiting till you can get a card to use. For example, I needed to get some C4 for this level, and instead of just telling me that at the beginning and just forcing me out just to go the other way, no, it makes me play it a bit, then tells me to go the fuck back, and just make me do some other levels rather than just, tell me to go over in this direction to get the C4 so I can progress. Or the more egregious example where the game needs me to get 3 masks for no reason other than they needed to extend gameplay time. That's all I could gather. The annoying part is that they are never used again. They're only used for this particular level. Honestly, the only thing I kinda enjoyed was the deck building, since it was still touching my love for card collecting. Though I would be remiss from not speaking on this since it really did confuse me. Why are they based on the MGS series and other Kojima produced games like this game here? I mentioned it only because I want to review it soon. Really do, since it has an interesting idea, but anyway. The packs. The pack. Look, they just give you random cards, and that's it. It's only there so you can have multiple of cards rather than just, giving you some cards already that were already good and just not useless cards, if I have any better word for them. Honestly, talking about it all, the actual only big problem with that, this game is just one waiting game. Waiting for the card you need to actually attack or move, and it's like, god damn it, waste a turn before you can actually do anything. And it just kinda all blends together. In fact, the one level that really annoyed me was the power plant, and this game literally legit made me rage quit since it actually requires me to replay going backwards and forcing me to get some new item to help me actually progress. Though I mean, like, it's not required to progress, but it makes it a lot easier. And it's just, no. In the end, this game is very boring. Everything feels off and unfinished. The story is unfocused, as everything feels as though they were writing on the fly, with the gameplay just feeling, well, yes, interesting, boring, and drags on for way too long.